Hi, and welcome to Highly Social. Today's podcast is brought to you by Golden Cricket Protein Bars. Golden Cricket utilizes the most sustainable protein source on the planet. Crickets! Yes, the insects! And it comes in a delicious flavor of peanut butter, chocolate, banana. Why crickets? Because they are 65% protein by weight, and they have more nutrients and use less water to produce than literally any other protein source. Go to goldencricket.com and use promo code EATON for 10% off. Nice. We are also sponsored by Joker Designs, Jokr Designs on Instagram. They're running some really cool holiday specials that I think are even better than my discount code. So go check them out. It's the beautiful bong with the honeycomb perk and the straight tube and the beaker bottom. You can buy individual pieces or all three. Now that is over, let's get into the podcast. I am solo dolo today. It's just mic time. I missed last week. I've had a lot of stuff going on, and there's like a few of you that actually listen to this podcast, and that still trips me the fuck out that anybody's like, hey man, you know what I'm going to do with my time? I'm going to listen to this retard. But I'm very grateful that you guys have decided to do that. I had an interesting couple of weeks. So Thanksgiving week, I went with Galen. I don't even know if I may have updated after that. I don't remember. But I went with Galen, and we got back from Florida. And I somehow in Florida got a sinus infection and an ear infection that perforated my left eardrum. So for like 3 days, I was just a deaf guy on the left side. And that was crazy. And then a good friend of mine and a big piece of the Austin comedy scene, Adam Hartle, passed away very suddenly of a heart attack. And so kind of dealing with that, I went, I've just been kind of dealing with that. And then I just got back this morning from Las Vegas. I met a group of people at the Creek in the Cave one night, and came out that I'm a Raiders fan. Go Raiders. And they wanted to do a show at the Raiders tailgate. So they got me plane tickets and tickets to the game, and then I was going to do time at the game, and then they were in a car accident, and so no event. So I went to Vegas for nothing. But I did get to see my good friend Scott Groves and hanging out with his kids, so that was nice. So a solo episode, the pacing on this is going to be weird because it's just me. But I wanted to talk about a couple of things. There's, anytime that someone passes away in the comedy community, it's very sad. And, a lot of us comedians are party people. We drink and we do the drugs and we smoke the things and all of that. And that's fine and that's fun, and I think that that's a piece of any artistic community, but it is a bummer that it lends to so many deaths. I don't know if it's kind of a chicken or an egg discussion. Like, do people that are prone to suicide and overdose and risk-taking behavior get into comedy, or are comedians bad at drugs? What's the answer here? I think it's a little bit of both. This is a topic that it's a conversation I've been having with a lot of people recently, is like, why do we do what we do, and why are we all so different but pretty fucked up similarly? And I think, the best answer I've come up with is that comedy, if you break it down, like, hey, why aren't women usually funny? Well, women don't need to be funny because they have a hole, right? And so they've never had to be like, hey, I need to be better as a mating partner, so laugh at me. That wasn't like a benefit. And because of the division of labor in society, when we went from hunter-gatherer to a pastoral and agricultural society, the women were taken out of labor and then were put into a child-rearing capacity. So now that they're further separated from the labor, if you just follow those rules, they're going to have a less of economic impact. So they are, they don't have to be funny. And then men, you got all this other stuff, like you got to have differentiating things. So then men are funny, but then which people are funnier? And what is funny and why would you need it? One, it's a mating tool, but it's also, possibly more importantly so, a coping mechanism. And I think that that's why there are women that are funny, because it is a coping mechanism. It's harder for them to come by because of honest feedback and whatnot. But like the coping mechanism of comedy to deal with things has always been crucial. I know for me that's my first introduction to comedy was anytime I was sad or upset about things, I had comedy. Like most of my most painful memories have a Netflix special or comedy special or album associated with them because I just played it on fucking repeat. So, the people that have taken a coping mechanism and a mating tool and turned it into a career and life, they're probably not going to have like a super healthy relationship with validation. The need to find approval from random strangers for your thoughts can be healthy and an artistic expression, but also lends to an unhealthy relationship with that validation. So I think that that's where you get this storm of all the things that lend to comedians being so bad at living a long time. And I think that all of those things are what makes Adam's death so much more tragic, is that he was a very rare case. If you didn't have the privilege or pleasure of knowing Adam, he won an open mic contest the very first time he tried comedy, and stayed with it. And because of some very intelligent decisions in his personal life, he'd been able to travel for comedy and do a lot of things that people maybe more confined by a day job weren't. And so he had a very interesting career path with comedy. He filmed a comedy special where he and his best friend Anthony went and smoked the very first and bought the very first legal weed in America. And it's like, man, that's what a fucking cool guy to look up to and to memorialize on the Highly Social Pod. But then further than that, Adam was unbelievably kind to everybody and didn't seem to need the validation of others, which was pretty cool. And he didn't do any of the crazy drugs. He didn't do any of the party stuff. He would stay out and drink with us, but his big thing was about being with the people and about enjoying the moment. Robert Dean, Bobby Dean, who is an incredible journalist, wrote an amazing piece that is on the Big Laugh Comedy website in dedication to Adam after he interviewed him. And one of the stories from there that I really appreciated was one time at a Kill Tony after party, Bobby and Adam had run into each other, and the parties. The after party at Kill Tony at Vulcan, it can be anywhere from 40 to 80 people, but, occasionally it's 10, it's 12. And this was one of those lighter nights, and Adam was in town, and he said, hey, Bobby, stick around, let's show these guys some love. Because Adam was always supporting everybody. And that was what he was out doing with his party thing, and it was really cool to be a part of. I met Adam and Anthony at the White Horse, local honky tonk, in March or April of last year, 2021. And we met through my ex-wife. Also, I don't know if I've said this on the podcast before. I'm divorced now. Hey, cool, great. It's a good year for Mike Eaton. So we met through my ex-wife, and we became good friends. And Anthony and Adam gave me the opportunity to perform on a very cool show at the original Sunset Strip at the Sunset Room downtown. And I had a really great set. And I remember seeing the lineup and thinking like, oh, fuck. Because I've had an interesting journey back to Austin. One story that, I think was cool when I first got here, Big Laugh told me I was going to host for Tony Hinchcliffe. And I was like, oh, man, that's fucking amazing. And I told everybody in town, and I, plugged it out. And I had a few friends that even bought tables to come support, which were not cheap. And then day of the show, morning of the show, a few hours before, I get a call that Ron White is going to be dropping in. And in my family, Ron White is as close to a saint as you can get. One of our family traditions was taking turns telling they call me tater salad story, at family gatherings. So to get to work with him, it was like the first time in my career I was like validated. And this was the end of 2020. So I was like, oh my God, I'm 2.5 years into comedy and I'm getting to open for Tony Hinchcliffe and Ron White. And I text my family group chat and they're all excited. And it's a big moment. And then about an hour before showtime, I get a call that Joe Rogan is going to be dropping in. And it's like, holy fucking shit, this is how it happens. That's one night. This is why I moved back to Austin. And then about 15 minutes before showtime, they pulled me out and they said, hey, the good news is you're still getting paid. The bad news is that they brought their own host, so you're not going to get to do a spot. I was like, oh, it was just a roller coaster of emotions. So I remember when I got booked on the Sunset Show, because they hadn't seen me perform, it was that same trepidation, like, I'm probably just going to get bumped for somebody that's good, and that's fine, but damn. And instead, they welcomed me into the green room, into the talent trailer. They fed us. They had unlimited free booze, and we had a great time, and I had a great set. And then I was lucky enough to be a part of almost every Sunset show. And the cool relationship I had with Adam was that he did comedy with a slideshow a lot of the times, and he had a clicker where he would tell jokes and then have a visual aid. And it was great because his closer was a video of him at his kids' scouts party, and there's a snake, and he tries to stomp on the snake to kill it and save the kids, and he's wearing flip-flops and cargo shorts, and he gets bit by the snake, and then he would play it again, and it would have that, I can't think of what it's called, but the noise, and it's him doing this goofy dance trying to stomp on the snake. And every single time, no matter how the rest of his set had gone, and they always went okay, but even if it hadn't gone great, that video would just crush, and then I would go up next. And there's probably about 50 pictures of I'm hugging Adam, getting off stage, and I got a White Claw in one hand, and he's got his clicker in the other. And, then I would get off stage, and, I would have worked on something new, and he would have noticed what new thing I did and would talk about it. And, we'd fist bump, and he'd say, me and you were a perfect 1-2. I'll set him up, and you knock him down. And it was just cool because he didn't care how long I'd been doing it. He didn't care about anything else. He just saw when I got up, I did well, and that was all that mattered to him. And it wasn't just me that he gave opportunities to. The original Sunset Room needed door guys, and they asked, who in the community, do you trust to be a door guy? And they wanted to run with the kind of model of the Comedy Store where the door guys are funny comedians, and it means something on a comedy level to be a door guy there, not just that you're free on those nights. And so, people like David Cinefani got an opportunity to work with Sunset, and that's, been very cool to watch. And, Darian Irwin, another guest and usually the Sass Master, got his introduction that way. And there's just so many nights at that Sunset trailer. And you think about the timeline of it. So that started 2021, and it's now, the end of 2022, not even 2 full years. And of those months, Adam was really only here 4 or 5 days of a month. He spent the rest of the time at home with his wife and his kids. And but he made such a giant impact here. So, it was very cool. And they had just gotten all the paperwork done to open the new venue downtown for the new Sunset, and Adam was in town for that. And that's the thing that really sucks about it is he had a heart condition, and I'm sure there's plenty of speculation you can do, and I don't think it does anyone any good. But he had a heart condition and had a heart attack and passed away. And I've known Adam, and I've been around Adam and partied with Adam, and I know it wasn't drugs because I know Adam doesn't do drugs. So it's, it's one of those things where it's like, holy shit, there's somebody you wouldn't expect ever. There's plenty of us, they die. It's like, all right, it sucks, it's tragic, but it's not surprising. But with Adam, it's been a surprise, and it's been really touching to see how many people have reached out about him and with concern and care about him and his situation and his family. We will be having some kind of memorial. Anthony's going to be putting together. We put our thoughts and prayers and love with Anthony and the family and everybody, because that's just a whole nother level of loss for them. We only had Adam for a short time, so I can't imagine what they're feeling. But when we have the memorial, I put details on social media, and we'll figure it out from there. Another a cool thing that I really appreciate them, and this is going to be a lot of stuff on this episode, but a lot of gratitude. The Drinking Bros are another group of people that have really helped me out, and obviously I'm sitting in their studio and being taken care of by their production team, and all of that. It's been really cool. They believed in me the same way the Sunset guys did, where they're like, hey, we see something in you, and so you do it. We'll help with what we've got. You do what you've got. So my special that came out on my YouTube, Ross and Dan were nice enough to hook up my YouTube and get me verified on there, and Anthony and Adam set up and got the special recorded. And that's fucking dope. It's really cool that in a day and age where to have a special, you either have to have a network or a streaming service or somebody have their fucking fingers in it and mess with the content, and is this going to sell, and is this going to work, and who's going to like it, or you have to self-fund it. You have to say, I'm going to put up my own money and bet on myself, and I'm not in a position to do either of those things because I'm not there in comedy yet. So Adam and Anthony just said, hey, you've got the material. If you're ready to record it, let's fucking do it. And they put it together, and that was a really a huge piece of my comedy career, and a huge milestone for me. Was something that they did essentially out of charity. They had nothing to gain from it. They had nothing financially to gain. I mean, they had to spend money to fill the room. No one's buying tickets to see this fat fuck, right? And it was pretty bonkers. So shout out to Adam. This one's for you. This is non-alcoholic probation officer, if you're watching. God, those are so good. And 8% non-alcoholic. So great. Dude, so I haven't talked on here publicly about the weed charges really, but I can go into that today because it's kind of an interesting story. So 2020, when the pandemic hits, I get all big sad boy. I'm coming back to visit here. I end up meeting my ex-wife. We fall in love. We get married, and then I decide to move out here to live with her. My first trip out here is the end of October, beginning of November of 2020, and I grabbed enough stuff for maybe 2 weeks, 2 weeks worth of clothes, and then I grabbed my weed and a bong, and then Eli had a keyboard and a bunch of fucking musical cables in a suitcase that he was like, hey, if you're driving, it would be helpful if you could bring these, because he had already moved here. So I pack up in the Prius, and I'm driving, and it's middle of pandemic shit, so the only place that I can stop that has anything open in terms of hotels is Las Cruces, New Mexico, which at the time has the highest infection rate in the country. And regardless of what we know now, back then I was fat. There's no vaccines. I don't really do much in terms of cardio. I got all those bad lung things from being a smoky boy. So I was about 90% sure I was going to die. So I was like, fuck, all right, mask up. So I stay in Las Cruces. I wake up the next morning, and I'm driving in to Austin, and I'm almost here. I'm actually about 15 minutes away from where the studio is now in Dripping Springs. and I get pulled over because my license plate light is out. Now, because I was driving a long distance, I hadn't really thought about, putting my weed away. And, I wasn't smoking while I was driving, but I was smoking while I was in between places. And so my weed is just in my open glove box. And the officer that pulled me over noticed it, says, hey, I see you've got marijuana in the car. Here, fortunately, that's just a Class B misdemeanor, so I don't have to arrest you, but I do have to search your vehicle. Do you have anything else in the car that I need to be aware of? And I was like, nah, man, just weed. It's me. I'm a pothead. I just got pot. So he searches my car. First thing that he finds is weed I've lost. So he just keeps going under the seats and in between the seats and doing like a really good job of searching. And he's, what is this? And I'm like, dude, it's still in the bag from the dispensary. It says weed on it. What are you asking me for? He's mad because he thinks that I didn't tell him about it on purpose. But I'm like, dog, I didn't know it was there. Like I actually owe someone an apology that I thought stole that bag of weed. So, fuck you. Then he finds my in the box still wax, which is like concentrate. And he says, what is this? And I was like, more weed. And he says, this says it's concentrate. And I was like, yes, concentrated weed. That is what it is. And unfortunately, in the state of Texas, concentrate is considered a manufactured or controlled substance. So I had to be arrested and charged with a felony, possession of a controlled substance. So he puts me in handcuffs. I'm very sad. It's not good to be arrested. Also, if you don't know, if you're fat and you get arrested, and they don't want to put the handcuffs in front to be nice, sometimes they'll have to use 2 pairs of handcuffs so that you can have your hands touching. So that's cool. That always that's a nice little self-esteem boost in the middle of a felony. And then they continue to search my car because they're, now intent, because I'm getting a felony. They might as well find something else to throw at me. And they go through the suitcase with Eli's music equipment, which, again, is just fucking like CLR cables and a keyboard. But also in there is his dog's medicine. Pablo, his dog, has a cough, and he had some antibiotics for it. And he had thrown those in the bag, I guess. I don't know. But Pablo's name is Pablo Escobar. So I have a pill bottle full of pills that says Pablo Escobar on it. And he's shaking them at me. What are these? What are these? We have to get these tested. What kind of narcotics do you have? And I was like, look, man, it says Pablo Escobar. If you go get my phone, I can show you him. And the cop is going to get my phone. And at the time, before I was robbed, I had 2 18-inch subwoofers in my trunk. And when my phone was plugged in, if my phone rang, and this was the fucking worst feature of all time, and I could never figure out how to fix it, if my volume on my phone was at full, not the car volume, but the phone volume was at full, then my ringtone would come in at full volume on the car. So when you have like super high-end aftermarket speakers, that is deafening. So normally I have my phone so that it doesn't ring, but I hadn't set it that way. So as he's going to get my phone out of the car, my phone rings, and my ringtone is the same thing it's been for, it's about 13 years now. Party in the USA by Miley Cyrus. Because it's a great song, and I love it. And when the song came out, I had a sexual awakening, because at 3 minutes and 3.5 seconds into the Party in the USA music video, Miley Cyrus twerked. And it was all we could talk about at college. So that was my ringtone, and so it goes off the power of 1,000 suns. Cop gets scared, It's a crazy thing to hear very loud. He gets my phone, brings it over, and then in handcuffs, I have to direct him to, put my Face ID on it, and he unlocks my phone and goes to Instagram and pulls up Pablo So Friend, Pablo's fucking Instagram, which I still maintain is the only good reason why a dog would have an Instagram is to help, not get an extra charge on my record. But so, that's the end of that. They impound my car. Because it's Dripping Springs, they don't have their own cops. So it's the Hayes County sheriffs who had pulled me over. So I was taken to the Hayes County Jail. And for everybody else that was there charged with a felony, they were like real felonies, like fifth DUI and controlled substance like meth, you know? So it was a rowdy group. On the drive there, it's like 45 minutes from where we were to the fucking jail. So we're talking a little bit and, you know, comes out that I'm a comedian or whatever. And, you know, the cop's saying, you know, man, that's a real bummer. I don't even think that weed should be illegal. It's like, yeah, man, me either. You know, I don't know what, why did you go to work today? Man, what the fuck, you know? And then like we're about 10 minutes from the jail. And, you know, we've been kind of joking back and forth. I'm trying to make the best of a shitty situation. And he says, hey, man, it'd be really funny if we get in there and you pretend to be deaf. Like, what? You know? And he's like, yeah, like that. And I'm like, no, but like, why would I do that? And he's like, oh, you know, it'd just be funny, right? And I was like, yeah, but for who? And he's like, us. I was like, yeah, man, I'm not having like a good time. I know you're at work, but this is like a bummer of a day for me, right? So he checks me in. At this point, I think it's got to be, 1, 2 a.m., maybe 3 a.m. And I've called, you know, a couple people to try and get me bailed out and get the ball rolling on that, so I don't have to spend too much time in jail. But while they're checking me in, I don't ever carry cash. It's fucking stupid. But I had, you know, sometimes I have some random cash in my pocket, and I had like $3 and some change in my pocket from buying something. So when they check me in, they're making sure that I sign off on everything, that they're putting my belongings in a bag, and they put the $3 on there, and then I have to sign this whole release form that they can't return the cash or the change to me, and then it'll be returned on a debit card. And it's this whole fucking thing. And like the penalty on activating the debit card is like $5. So like the $3.70 whatever that I'm putting on it is meaning that basically I would lose $1.25 if they gave me this card. And I was laughing really, really hard at how stupid that was. And a couple of people got mad about that and were yelling shit at me. So then they throw me in the tank with everybody else. And if you've ever been to jail, there's always a couple people there that are like good at jail, which is so weird to be like that. Everybody's good at something, you know, we all have our talents, but some people's talent is they're like good at jail, and that's fucking weird. Like there was a guy that had, you know, some food that he had saved from lunch that he was saving by drying it off with toilet paper and then wrapping it and putting it inside of these styrofoam cups, and it, you know, worked to keep the food good for like a day before you would get sick from eating it. And he knew that because he had tested it. And, you know, just a lot of weird conversations of people bragging about how much they know the system and what time things happen. And, you know, there's always new people coming in, and a lot of them are kind of drunk or in disarray. And there's always a young kid that's like his first time getting arrested that's like terrified his life is over. And there's one younger kid that's in there that's arrested for meth, and he's talking to an older guy that's on like his 4th meth arrest, who has just been making phone call after phone call trying to get shit done. And I remember they bring around breakfast, and it is a cup of powder, which turned out to be powdered milk, and then a tray, and on the tray is gravy that looks like a low-budget porn's cum, and then a single like sausage patty that I don't think was ever alive or part of anything living. And then in like the little like very shallow tray where you would put like green beans or the terrible vegetable medley on it, like a cafeteria thing from school, they had just put like 40 cornflakes, not frosted, just cornflakes. And so one of the, you know, good at jail guys says what you got to do is you take the cornflakes and you put them in with the powdered milk, and then you put it under the water fountain, and you mix those up and let them sit for a minute, and then you got cornflakes. And one of the things that he kept saying is, you know, it's really cool. At a lot of jails, the breakfast is shitty, but here, not only is this gravy fire, but these are real cornflakes. Like these are Kellogg's Frosted Flakes, real brand name. These aren't any bullshit flakes. And he kept saying that over and over, and it made me so mad. I turned around, I was like, hey man, I just need you to know that they're not. Like, these are not name brand anything. These are very terrible. Stop trying to make this sound better than it is. This is jail food. It's not good. Shut up. Don't say this is good food anymore. I hate you. The other thing about jail that's very interesting is they make it like really, really, really hard to kill yourself. But it's like all you want to do, you know? It's like, it's such a bummer. So like even the phone cords aren't very long, and the blankets, you can't really tie them in a knot. It's one of the reasons I look up to Jeffrey Epstein so much, is that he was able to kill himself in jail. That's a talent. He was an entrepreneur and a prodigy of suicide. So I'm there, not killing myself, and I curl up on the concrete floor as far away from the toilet as I can get. All the beds are taken by skinny people, which just seems rude, but I don't want to fight. And I finally pass out. You know, I've been up for 20-something hours at this point, and finally pass out, falling asleep, leaning against the wall with my shitty carbon fiber blanket or whatever. I think it's made out of the stuff that they use for insulation in houses. They're like asbestos blankets. But so I'm, taking my nap, and I get woken up to one of the guys like kicking me. And he goes, "Hey, bro, isn't that you?" I'm like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" And he goes, "Hey, man, they're watching you." And I was like, "Yeah, dude, they're watching all of us. This is jail. That's what jail is when they watch you." And I'm being a smart ass because I'm mad he woke me up. But I look, and so there's the 10 or 11 of us in this big cell that has like a toilet and a couple phones and a few beds. It's maybe 15 by 10 or so, maybe 20 by 10. But it's so it's that room, and then there's a huge bulletproof like plexiglass, can't break it, kind of scratched up window, and on the other side of that is the bullpen, and then there's like the female jail like 20 yards away, and all the processing stuff. And in the bullpen, there's maybe 10 cops at any given time, or I don't know if they're still whatever. They wear cop uniforms, they're cops, and so there's like 10, 12 cops in there, and then there's a couple other people that are up behind security usually. And then there's a few other, people working at the jail doing cop stuff and work that are, coming in and out. And all of them have now congregated and are gathered around the shitty old computer, which we need to buy cops new computers. That's crazy that they're still using like rear projection CRT monitors. But so they're all sitting around watching this fucking 360p resolution YouTube video of my stand-up. And the clip that they're watching, it was for a long time, I didn't have a good job of managing my online presence and where my comedy came up. So the first clip that I put online was of me at an open mic at a place called Las Pupusas. Shout out Michael Gonzalez for putting me on that. And they'd filmed it, and it was the first time I'd had like a good set, and it had been caught on like a nice tape. But there's like maybe 10 people, and it's a fucking Mexican restaurant, and I'm doing shitty dick jokes, and it was the first thing I had, but it was the first thing I used to send to bookers to get on shows and be like, "Hey, here's a tape," just something that was high quality and good sound. So it had the most views of anything on my YouTube. So if you searched Mike Eaton comedy, the first thing that came up was that video. So it wasn't good by any means, and it was a couple years, maybe a year and a half old at that point. So, not even where I was at then. And so I just watched myself bomb a bag of dicks through this fucking plexiglass window to these cops. It's just not a single laugh, chuckle, a couple of nervous stares over at me. I was like, oh man, that sucks. I just wanted to pick up like the phone where you can talk to them and like yell like, "Hey, that's not for you. Don't watch that. There's better ones." But so, that whole thing happens. Finally, my good friend Matt picks me up from jail. Matt has had to pick me up from some crazy situations. When I got roofied in downtown Austin and the paramedics found me slumped over in a parking lot, and I woke up. I like 5 a.m. in an ambulance. Like, where the fuck am I? And they're like, hey, we found you slumped over. And they did a blood test, and I had 2 doses of roofies in my system, but I didn't get the results back till later. But I have this vague memory of coming to in the ambulance and then, kind of joking around with the paramedics. I get to the hospital. They won't let me check myself out, even though I feel fine at this point. And, it's 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. at this point. I don't know who to call. And Matt is my most responsible friend. So I called him, and he picked me up. And the best part of that story is that I, found out and I got roofied and told a lot of people. But I guess I had assumed he already knew. So it was like a year later that Matt finally heard me telling that story to someone. Was like, you got fucking roofied? I thought you were just drunk, you idiot. Like, no. So Matt picked me up from the hospital. This time he's picking me up from jail. So then the problem, though, was getting arrested in the end of 2020, especially in Hays County, is that, one, possession of a controlled substance for weed isn't like a huge priority. I'm not like some scary criminal. And 2, they have bunches of other crimes and stuff that's already been backlogged at this point. Going into March of 2020 when everything shut down, they had all of the stuff they were still hearing from 2019. So they weren't able to do any jury trials because they couldn't have a jury. And they, couldn't do any court dates or do anything to get this felony taken off my record. So, I had a tough time finding an apartment that I could get accepted at because I have a felony. I was trying to apply for some day jobs, Uber Eats and all the shit that comedians do, and I can't do it because I have a felony. All this stuff, and it's like my life's just fucked because of this weed charge. And then finally, I go and I got a lawyer, and he told me, you have to quit smoking and drinking, so I did, and I quit everything, and then I passed my drug test, and so then they put me on probation and dropped the felony down to a misdemeanor. So now that's why I'm not drinking, and I just have my CBD and my non-alcoholic beverages because I'm on probation for my weed charge. But it's just such a fucking weird thing because all of the weed that guy found was stuff that I'd bought with like a debit card at a store, Like I had a receipt for the stuff that was a felony here. And just like a whole trippy time. But, it's ended up being a pretty good story and a learning experience. So my time in Austin has been very interesting. I think if you've been watching Giggle Boys and you watched that happen and you heard a lot of these stories and, pieces of it, but also because it's been a developing court case, I haven't really been able to talk about it. Or with the divorce stuff, that's the long and the short of that is we fell in love and got married very fast. And, we were getting to know each other and what our lives were like. And a lot of our first, few months and year together was during the pandemic stuff still. So life was very different and things were very different and the speed of things were different. And as comedy started to pick up and I had to spend more time doing that and, her work situations would change and have difficulties there. It came to a point where I was spending more time, effort, and energy focused on comedy than I was on marriage. And I thought that I was, sacrificing towards something in the future, but really I was a lot of it was me being selfish about me. And whether that's good or bad or whatever, everyone can make their own judgment side. And, it's a shitty situation regardless. But for me, at the end of the day, I gotta put everything I have into comedy. And whether or not that's a great decision remains to be seen, but I can't blame someone for not wanting to feel second place. So that's what happened there. But, I haven't been able to talk about the weed charge or any of that because it's all been pending. And the second one is finished. And if Brittany, if you're watching, sorry, hope you're not mad. Please don't yell at me. But things have been weird, and 2022 has been a weird year. I've had some really cool stuff, and you guys have gotten to see a lot of really awesome guests here with me. I'm sure things will be back to normal next week. I'll have a cool guest on the show. We'll have some fun conversations and story time. But until then, I appreciate you guys very much in the comedy community at large. There's been a lot of loss this year. Earlier this year, we lost one of the best to ever do it, Scotty Peterson, and right after Scotty died, it was very nice to be able to go to the creek and have so many people around that were so loving and caring. And to have so many people in this community that have reached out to check on me when I'm going through some tough stuff. Being a smiley, happy retard and having fun and making people laugh every night, is great. It's amazing. But I also, 99% of the time when people ask how I'm doing, I say great or living the dream, or another day in paradise. Because even if I'm doing shitty, it doesn't do anyone good to talk about it, usually. But, right now I'm not doing great. It's not super awesome, but that's okay because things will get good again. And there will be more fun things to happen. And, in the middle of some pretty terrible stuff and some terrible news and unfortunate situations and a lot of bullshit, some very cool stuff has popped up. On December 9th, I'm going to do a 5-minute guest spot for Chad Daniels at Cap City Comedy Club. Chad Daniels is my all-time favorite comedian. I've been listening to. If you should know him, he's one of the more popular guys. He's one of the most streamed comedians and downloaded comedians of all time. But it's been cool because I started listening to him when he was married and had, young kids and was doing jokes about them being retarded and not understanding magnets and it was cool hearing that. And then, listening to him talk about, then getting a divorce and then talking about his kids growing up and then the struggles of being a single father and then his son going through puberty and, now, his last album, Dad Chaniels, talking about his son, starting to be more of an adult and starting to come to and turning 18. And, he just actually a couple days ago on Saturday, I believe, recorded 2 specials in one night, back to back, at the Orpheum in Madison. So he's just a prolific comedian. He's been on the road for 20 years, just fucking slaying. And I've looked up to him since before I really even started doing comedy. In 2017 at Moon Tower Comedy Festival, he was here and did a few shows, and I didn't buy a ticket to the whole pass, a pass to the whole fest, but I did buy individual tickets to the 3 shows he was on. And in between the second show at Velveeta Room and the third show at the Parish, which Small World is now the new Sunset venue, Chad is walking over the Parish to do Josh Adam Meyer's Goddamn Comedy Jam. And I ran into him and asked for a picture and said, hey, man, I hope I don't sound like a douche. I really look up to you and I appreciate you. And he said, you're not a douche at all. And we took a picture. And then a year later, I messaged him saying, hey, man, you were a big part of encouraging me to actually finally start comedy. And he gave me some really cool advice. And then February of this year, when he announced he was coming, he said, hey, I messaged him. I was like, hey, I saw that you're coming to Austin. I'd really love to open for you. I've gotten a lot better. And hosting for you would be an absolute dream. If there's anything I could do to make that happen, please let me know. And he said he would look into it, which he didn't even have to do. And then he responded when I checked in a few weeks ago saying, hey, a good friend of mine is going to be hosting that they found out they're surprising me with, but I'd love for you to do a guest spot on my show. So that's a real dream come true for me. And also getting to be in the green room and hear that's going to be very cool. And then getting to go watch his new set, I'm super fucking pumped for. And just to see, the version of the hour that he just did, especially right after recording it, I'm sure there was a couple things where he was like, oh, what if I did this or I did that or something that, he knows for the edit that he wants specific word order or from one night or the other. So it'll be cool to see something that's that polished. Or if he just goes off script, there's no telling what he's going to do or what jokes he's going to say. And I'm fucking here for it and excited. And I'm pretty sure if he's still touring, Rand Barnacle should be his feature, who I have not seen live, but his album that I listened to after listening to the Middle of Somewhere recommendation was one of my favorites that I've ever listened to and truly a unique take on the comedy experience. So that was very cool. And then in super exciting news, I am teaming up with Besame, my favorite ice cream food truck down off 71 near Meanwhile Brewery out in front, the little pink truck. I have a love affair with that ice cream that started just some fucking foodie on Instagram. I think actually A Taste of Cocoa is who posted about it that I saw originally, because she did a collaboration flavor with them that had Lucky Charms in it, which I'm a sucker for. And they do really incredible flavors. Everything is made from scratch in a house. The ice creams, the sauces, the mix-ins. And they have a few that have just been out of this world. And when I got on the Kill Tony episode with Theo Vaughn, one of the things I was talking about was their smoked peach sundae. There's a barbecue truck in that same little plaza called Distant Relatives that is 10 out of 10 out of this world. And they smoked their peaches, and then they mixed them with sweet cream ice cream and cobbler pieces and like a fresh whipped cream on top. And it was... I'm getting worked up. It was really good. So I talked about that on Kill Tony, and they're like, "These guys fucking sponsor you?" And I was, "No, I'm fat. I like ice cream." And I guess a few people sent that to them, and I've made friends with the owners just from being a fan of the ice cream, and we sat down and talked about it. So coming in January, we're going to be releasing a collaboration flavor. I'm designing my own flavor from scratch, which means it's going to be fat as hell and delicious. And mark your calendars, because January 20th, we're going to do an event at the truck where if you can make me laugh, you get a free scoop of ice cream. And if you show me that you don't give a fuck about New Year's resolutions and you cancel your gym membership, you get a free pint. So I think that's going to be really fun, and it's very silly. And, hopefully I don't gain 600 pounds, but you never know. It's pretty much a fat kid's dream that I'm sponsored by an ice cream truck. It's really cool. I said this to myself the other day, and because I'm schizophrenic and I like to speak to myself, but I think it's actually pretty beneficial. And it's something that brought a small bit of solace in the middle of some dog shit. If you could go back to your 16-year-old self and just brag to them for 5 minutes about the shit going on in your life, that is a really easy way to make a cool gratitude list. Because dude, if I could go back to 16-year-old me that thought he was hot shit because he was on a football team and using his dad's credit card to bang whores, like if I could go back to him and be like, "Hey man, you're gonna be a comedian that's sponsored by a bong company, your best friend's cricket bar company, and an ice cream truck," be like, "Man, that's fucking sick." And be like, "Yeah, and you got a bunch of retard tattoos that make people laugh." Also, shout out Jeremiah. He was on the pod and did the butterfly, but recently I went and got a new one. I got a milkshake on my hand, and it is a handshake because that's so stupid, and I love it. And in true Mike fashion, I'd been talking to him about getting a milkshake tattoo for a while, and I wanted it, and I couldn't decide where to put it. And then it got cold, and I was walking around, I had a jacket on, and I was looking down at my hands, and I have the snake, and I had this microphone, and I was looking at those, and I was like, man, it looks cool to have tattoos on your hands when you're wearing long sleeves, because then it's like, whoa, are there more tattoos? Who just has hand tattoos? I wonder what's under there. And I was like, I want to get a hand tattoo. So I decided to get a milkshake on my hand, just with Jeremiah talking, and then when he drew it up to put in the paperwork so I could pay when I got there, the girl at the front desk goes, "Oh, a handshake." And that was when we both realized that it was also a pun. So not the brightest bulb in the crayon shed, but I am, full of punny tattoos. I don't think that there's any benefit to me figuring out more word salad for more time to fill out this hour episode. But I would encourage you all to, one of the things that I am going to try to do in remembering Adam is to hug my fellow comedians as often as possible, because most of you are going to die pretty soon, and probably me too. And that's just the nature of the business, and so we should cherish the time we have with each other and appreciate it. We're all working very hard towards different things, and it can be a very lonely grind, especially because you're the only one on stage at a time. So I think having that fellowship and community, and the same way that Adam was always there supporting us, and the other artists in our community. I think that it would be great if we could all take some time to do that. So thank you guys, and I appreciate you very much. This has been Highly Social with Mike Eaton. Rest in peace, Adam.